show from engine start.
From the trenches of motorsports and Gearhead Central, this is RealTuners Radio, your all-motor, boosted, and nitrous-fed hour of power. Now, here's your hosts, the Reverends of RPM, the Faction of Traction, John Bewley, Scott Clark, Bill Fowler, Scott Evans, Mark Dahlquist, Mike Perduto, James Short, Tom Sewell, Brian Barnhill. This is RealTuners Radio.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of RealTuners Radio. Not much else to talk about this week except our upcoming classes November 7th and 8th in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's over halfway sold out, so get your reservations at RealTuners.com if you want to see. Again, this is the only class we have scheduled right now. These guys are able to pull this off in the middle of COVID-19, and the class is a little over halfway sold out after only a week. November 7th and 8th, Little Rock, Arkansas. If you can't make it to Little Rock, there's no excuse. Sign up for the interactive live class. There's a live stream of this class, interactive on a Facebook group. Limited seats available for this as well. All that you can find at RealTuners.com. RealTuners.com, go check it out. We already have some serious cars lined up for that weekend. You definitely do not want to miss out. Rumor has it Randy Westmoreland may be bringing his Hemi Mazda. Should be pretty cool. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is RealTuners Radio. Everybody's unmuted. How are you guys doing? Are you guys mad that I had to mute you during that intro?
Bro, we can't talk crap about you behind the...
I know. And you know what's weird?
It wasn't as entertaining as it normally is.
No, and what's weird is, like, I was like, oh, cool, they can't talk shit about me. And then I realized that, but then everybody's, like, not laughing or having fun or whatever when I bring them in. So
it's typically me and Mark talking crap. Let's be real.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So let's see what's new. Fucking NHRA.
Well, how about James Short, the bad man of the planet,
is here with us tonight too.
James has been.
They're saying audio glitches already.
Audio glitches? I doubt it.
So
Kevin
Facebook
Scott
for
says you're a
me
liar.
is having massive errors. Like not just Facebook feed, Facebook in general.
Facebook
Like
is having a problem?
My whole screen, like my newsfeed says nothing. All it says is something went wrong, reload page, and nothing happens.
Really?
So
okay.
Zuckerberg.
Mine says we're streaming and that it's
maybe about to get banned.
47 people are listening. So
I'm checking it out right now, so hang tight.
Gotcha. Go ahead and let us know.
We need the
having trouble playing this video. Look at that. Try again. We are having issues. Huh.
Is it our end or Facebook?
I think it's Facebook.
Scott talked crap earlier. Ooh, we're gonna have our third week with no issues.
Yeah, well, that's
dude. You
far.
Nope, you've never learned. You always jinx it.
There's that shit talker
thing, but the Facebook is playing fine on my
It's
end.
just Facebook in some locales, guys, is what it is. Because mine is freaking out, but I got others that are not. And YouTube is loud and clear. So if you guys,
Facebook guys are saying they can hear us fine. Some say good, some say don't. So I don't know what to tell you.
So I would
you're having a
refresh it.
problem-
My Facebook just came back.
Yeah.
So
go to YouTube, and it's set to keep the stream going, even if it gets interrupted on Facebook. There's a setting for that. So sorry, everybody.
It's all in Facebook. YouTube is fine.
Yep. Okay. Love it. Okay. So anyway, what about the NHRA, guys? Bill, you're the one that lives closest to those people out there. What in the hell is going on out in Pomona?
Well, there's no doubt that living close to Glendale means that I don't know any more than anybody else does. However, the little bits and pieces that I get from the people that I know, that some of whom I might be in a position to know, say that for some time now they have had contingency plans teed up. In the corporate world, contingency plans mean that you've already met with counsel that handles bankruptcies and restructurings, and that they've got filings prepared. I think with the Coca-Cola lawsuit, for those that don't know, the NHRA is suing Coca-Cola because they pulled out of all of their sponsorship at the national level for NHRA effective immediately.
And didn't make a payment also, right?
Yeah, at the end, instead of going through 2023. So that's a big deal when that's your name, title, sponsor. So the question is, there's a lot of novel questions here, meaning, is COVID a reason to get out of it? And we won't invoke, terms like force majeure and Latin phrases, but basically most contracts have reasons under which, if things are bad enough, you can get out of them. But we have no visibility to the actual contract, so we don't know. So that puts
can I guess?
everything.
Let me take a guess. Is it because NHRA TV coverage absolutely sucks balls?
Well, does it? Was it that bad? I thought it was all
It
right.
was
I
that
like
bad.
listening to loans.
It was never that good to begin with.
Opinions of the host themselves, not of RealTuners Radio.
Okay, they don't show any racing. They spend an hour talking to each other in the booth, and they don't show any racing. They show one round of Pro Stock. They show one round of like qualifying for Funny Car. Maybe might show 2 motorcycles, and then they show Top Fuel Finals. That's the total of an NHRA broadcast. It blows. Like, if I was a title sponsor, I'd be pissed.
So
Certainly from a sponsor visibility standpoint, I would agree it's not good. Having somebody hold a can in their gloved mitt talking from a mask at the end of the track interviews, I don't think that does much for a brand personally. Go ahead, Mike.
Is it weird with them suing their now defunct title sponsor? How does that look to future
Potential
title
sponsors
that might want to do it?
Yeah.
So when you're having the follow-up conversations with potential sponsors, you're going to end up having a highly NDAized conversation to explain what your position is, because let's face it, things do happen. This is not an orderly transition. So that's not a good sign. John Bartolomeo, who's a big-time sportsman racer, had a very, shall we say, acerbic blog post that I read today about what's happening in the House of Wally. So when the guys who have been the staunch supporters, participants at the NHRA top level of sportsman ranks begin to break rank, you got problems.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate for the rest of the sport. Although,
so does that mean John Force is going to go no prep racing next year? I mean, that would be badass. Let's get Gary Dencham out there.
Don't worry.
He's already got the tire smoke portion of it down.
It'll be okay.
I think Force could beat anybody in a pedal fest, so that's pretty cool.
I mean, just throwing
he's
it
the
out
master.
there.
Force is the master of the pedal.
Yeah. I mean, Dave River, pro stock racer, he just likes to go racing. He gets last year's engines from Elite at a discount, and I helped him do the tuning in this last couple of years. And and Robert actually went to the class and took over their tuning. He's done an awesome job. He's driving the car. But I mean, we looked at the money they were spending, and it was not quite top 3 radio versus the world money, but close. And I was like, man, you could build a turbo car or a radio car or a no prep car or something. And shit, man. I mean, those guys are racing for bigger money. Hate to say it. I knew Bewley, and I know a small tire team he works with that won $58,000 in events doing local and regional no prep and small tire type stuff a couple years ago.
Versus winning in pro stock that pays what, 12 grand or something?
No, I don't.
6
is it
now.
even that? It's
6
6
grand.
now.
Like 6, yeah.
To win.
Yeah.
Win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah, so I was
Spend
gonna say,
$500,000 a race
you
and
can't
win
get there and back.
$6,000.
You can't get there and back for that, but they're putting that on national TV. I just, damn it. I hate to see it going this way, because Brian Loans is a longtime friend of mine and lots of us here. And,
how's a pro stock team supposed to get a sponsor when they don't have any TV time?
I was just going to say their big problem is no TV time. That's what they got told.
Because
he's like, hey, if
for pro racing to not pay out enough, just winning usually doesn't pay you enough to show up outside of Formula One and a few of those that have such
in the top tiers, the top fuel teams, there were top fuel teams that were breaking even.
Yeah, but even like NASCAR, maybe at the very top
not
end,
on purse. No way.
Not on purse.
I know it.
That's why Tony Schumacher didn't have a ride.
Right, I know at one point it paid over $40,000 just to start the Daytona 500.
Yeah. So I don't. Well, that's true. But you know what it costs to show up and run?
Well, a lot more than 40 grand, but that's
Right.
that's just to start at the field. That the winner gets several million.
Right. And there's some exceptions to that, but like even maybe at top level NASCAR, but in most stuff like this, and that's the problem, you're not getting TV coverage, so you don't have that money coming in to split with the racers. So normally, like, so you make it up on your partnership agreements. Well, how do you said it? How do you sell partnership to someone for a sport that doesn't get any kind of coverage? So and if it's not going to be on TV, why isn't your streaming good enough? Formula Drift is entirely streamed. It gets some television coverage, but it's usually like 3 months after the event. So
I actually saw some Formula Drift on TV the other night. I get this obscure. I came with the Samsung TV, some internet TV thing. There's like a 50 or 60 channels. I mean, there's like 4 fishing channels. It's like, fuck yes.
Yeah, because watching fishing is so much incredible.
Fun, exciting.
Kill me.
Me and Jason are fishermen now. We're trying to be anyway. But
fishing, being out on the boat,
cool.
One thing. It's like a lot of hobbies or sports. Doing it great, watching it
not so great.
Much. Brian, how long is Pro Drift? How long is each individual competitive segment?
So like a bracket will be. It tends to be about an hour and a half to 2 hours or so, depending.
But I mean, when the cars are actually moving, an individual pair of cars are moving. So it's the top 32 competition. So 32 guys. So and they'll break it up. So each run, it depends on the track. It's anywhere from 2 minutes to 5 minutes. Now the cars are probably only moving for a minute to 2 minutes, depending on the track. But because it's a set of runs, basically. So they'll go out and do a run, come back, switch who leads, who follows, do the run again, and then make the judgment call. But from the very start of the run to the judgment call, typically anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes, probably. Okay. So 3 to 6 minutes of, quote, action versus 3 seconds in the fuel ranks.
Right.
This is become and always been part of drag racing's problem with being broadcast is that unless you're personally involved or interested in what's going on beyond just I like Courtney Force.
I like Courtney Force.
I knew
right.
that.
I mean,
but there's not a lot to say about it. And it's over.
Right. So how do you get the play, the live stream or the show? How are you getting, driver interest pieces and stuff like that? What are you doing as a series to bring interest to the guys that make your sport? Because without the drivers, you've got nothing. So, are you doing driver interest pieces? Are you doing interviews? Are you bringing any kind of attention to them? And, at a certain point that helps the sport as well, because it's not just this random guy that's out there that drives fast for 3 seconds. So there's someone they want you to like them, they want you to hate them. And Intertrade has been there before in the 80s. Monster Truck learned from that back in the late 80s, early 90s, when they basically made the drivers into characters. They wanted you to hate some of them. Drama makes good TV. It makes for a good story.
Yeah, I mean, for those who missed the Pinks phenomenon and then Pink's All Out phenomenon, it's
man,
everybody forgets that whether you like that or those people or stuff, that laid some of the groundwork for then when Street Outlaws and that stuff came along, which all helped elevate what most of you guys who are doing tuning in the drag world have to do with now, which is heads up guys running all these places at all these little tracks, but for in some cases very decent money and some internet notoriety. I'm guessing there's not a lot of people who watch Fox Sports that know who Derek Kelly is, but virtually everybody who listens to this show does.
Sorry, I'm already.
One of the big problems is the TV coverage is on channels that most people don't get. Right? You have to have cable. You have to have a package that is more than just basic. So you're going to spend $200 on a cable package to be able to watch NHRA on Fox Sports, right? Most people don't want to have to spend that much money on their cable. There are people who do because they do use it, but the majority of people don't want to spend that much. Yes, you can buy a Fox package through the internet and you can get it for cheaper. There are ways around it, but part of the problem is it's the wrong channel to put it on to get any kind of money involved with it. Why put it on a TV station that you can't get the right coverage of people? NASCAR is on prime TV, right? Millions and millions and millions of Americans watching cars go left around a track for hours on end, and it's on a major TV network that you get over the antenna if you need to.
For half the season.
You don't get that with NHRA.
And even if you don't, NASCAR has a really good streaming option for guys that don't have cable at all. So, you know, that's fine. You want to be on an obscure channel or a different channel, have a good streaming option, have some sort of presence, some internet presence or something like that to get people involved. You know, most motorsports fans are used to watching through live stream at this point. You know, for the longest time, that's how I even watched F1 because it was easier.
So has NHRA done a bad job of appealing to the younger up and coming audience, and that's they're shooting themselves in the foot and dying off? Is that the reason they're falling?
That could definitely be part of it.
I mean, look at, and not to use duck as the statement of example, but we're 11 years into the duck races, growing every year. They haven't even, I think by now NHRA would say, hey, maybe we should put a radial class over here. That's obviously what people want to watch.
I will say this: last year and the year before, I attended some NHRA national events, and frankly, I hadn't for a long time. But those events where I went, Phoenix for one location, Pomona for another, they were essentially sold out. I mean, you had to shoulder your way through the manufacturer midway and where they had all the teams parked. So the in-person events had come around. To the point where were they filling all the stands they had filled at one point? Not so much, but you know, when you have to park out in East Jesus and then walk through the dirt to just get to the gate to walk into the place, they were making something happen. And those crowds make a ducks race look like, you know, nobody showed. So that was there. And much
in
like
person is a lot better with NHRA than their TV
absolutely.
is.
Yeah,
massively better.
Yeah, and so in-person events is how they make their money and how everything else works. And when you stop that and you stop being able to have spectators, you know, it's a knife to the gut. And you know, whether they survive this or not, I don't know the answer to that. But it's much like musicians, completely different industry. They don't make any money anymore in the traditional model of, you know, selling twirling discs that we play. They make very little money from you know, any kind of online or streaming sales. They make all their money from performing.
I tell you what, I put a poll out there. I just said, do you enjoy watching NHRA on Fox when it's actually running live? And it's split right down the middle, 50-50, literally split 50-50 with 20 people responding.
I think a curious question would be, would you be willing to pay for an exclusive live stream on top of that?
So they have that for NHRA. You know that, right? I didn't.
Yeah, but it's not very good.
I do not.
No,
Right,
actually, it is
my
very
next
good. I'm going to say it's fucking awesome. It's way good. So, like, when I was 2 years ago, I was supporting a number of teams. This year, I'm helping 3 different guys out, and I subscribe to it. People are always bitching, oh, it didn't work for me. I couldn't get it to work. I want my money back. I've never had tech issues, and the coverage is fucking awesome. It's just all racing and just a little bit of interviews. No commercials, and it's a better stream than whoever's mixing it and producing it is doing it like a TV quality job. I liked it, and I was actually using it to watch runs. Then after the run was over, I knew it was my turn. Okay, set up and get a log, send a calibration back if I need to make a change. It literally built everything around the NHRA live stream. It worked good. It's worked good for me. This is my 4th year using it.
Is the streaming coverage equally good this year, given all the change-ups and everything?
No. They might be limping along a little bit. I mean, it's for my purposes, it's perfect because I get to see the passes. I know who's up next. It's just a little more like an appropriate internet stream, but I don't know. No, it's probably not as good for people. It's definitely not. There's not as much glitz and glamour as there is on Fox.
The live stream is nice for guys that are into it and are following it for the right reason, but that is never going to make you money on a large subscriber base or on any kind of revenue or anything like that. Because that's the problem. Like, yeah, we're fine. I can sit down and watch any kind of racing with no commentary, no interest piece. But, you know, that's one comment guys that, like my brother, for example, likes to go to drift events, hates to watch the live stream because it was terrible to watch for a long time. It was difficult to do. If it's just cars running all the time with no context, it's great for background noise or guys that are into it, but no one's going to sit and watch it and be glued to the live stream and be engaged in a way that will interest a sponsor, whether it's for a driver or for the series in general.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. So it was actually 52% will watch and enjoy NHRA when it's running and 48% won't. That's interesting, man. That's like a split right down the middle on that.
I voted and tipped it a little bit to the positive.
But of course you're going to watch it, but I'm going to bitch the whole time that they aren't showing all the classes with all the qualifying runs and all of the, they used to have really good coverage. You used to be able to watch the whole event, and now it's like they'll show a couple races and then they'll sit in the booth and yammer on about something and go do something else, and they show very little racing and it's all just blah 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 blah. It's like, shut up.
Kind of like us.
Kind of. Yeah.
Kind of. I would watch the factory stock challenge stuff and the Hemi challenge stuff for hours on end because I love both those kinds of cars. I just the old darts and Barracudas in that class, and then now with the Copos versus the Cobra Jets versus the Hellcats or whatever the Mopars, I forget. Anyway, drag pack. I just love those cars. I mean, the small tire, the big wheelies, the really, making them work. And now they're getting pretty seriously fast. 750s is quick for an NA small motor, not NA. I apologize. Boosted small motor.
So all that stuff is fine and swell, and we enjoy it. But if you go to the track and watch it on the day of the race, you'll see that there's like a 10% group of people that stay and watch those cars, and everybody else goes and walks around until it's time for the pro stock and funny cars and top fuel alcohol and the pro bikes. Like, nobody sits in the stands for that stuff, which, it's still a thing that people enjoy, but it's a much smaller crowd that goes to watch that than goes to watch the big boys run. And that's part of their problem is, you got a whole day full of stuff. You can't advertise the whole day. And the TV side, you can't put things on if there's no people to support it. And if you can get Mr. Loans walking around the pits and talking to somebody and explaining something about a car, that's what they're trying to target is, hey, everybody's out here walking around. They want to see us talk. They want to talk to us and watch us talk live on TV.
Right. But part of the reason why people get up and walk away is because when a top fuel dragster or a top fuel funny car goes down the track, it's an entirely different experience than when a pro stock motorcycle goes down the track. However, when you're watching on the TV, you could have the most killer stereo in the world and you're not going to duplicate a top fuel dragster. It ain't going to happen. So
no, you're never going to get that feeling in your chest.
And so people,
and even if you could, if somebody had the right stereo to do it and to actually make it that loud and that
the
forceful,
microphones, no dice.
Challenges, then you can't do justice to anything else because you're strictly set up for that.
But the point is when you're watching on TV, you're watching different things than when you're watching live, because there's not much difference between watching a top fuel dragster or a pro stock bike when you're watching on TV.
All I know is if they figure out how to adequately capture the feel of watching a funny car, do the burnout, pull up, and then launch, and can present that with an audio system, I am flying directly to Mark Dahlquist's house because that will be the place to listen to it, because you will get that gut punch feeling you can get no place else. We'll just have to figure out how to make it smell like nitro.
I just need to build a subwoofer big enough.
That's easy.
You can sit inside.
He's gonna have
I'm sure he's got the plans on the way as we speak.
You don't need to sit inside. You already got shakers for the couch. We just need a whole lot more of them.
They're here.
Yeah, so Mark, adjust your camera.
Are you guys checking out John Ryan? Pro Stock John is sharing some kind of interesting info. In 2016, NHRA gross revenues were $95.1 million. In 2017, they were $94.7. And in 2018, $97 million. Some non-revenue related information the tax return reveals is that the NHRA membership remained basically the same in 2018 as did the prize money paid, roughly $23+ million.
And I apologize for not knowing John Ryan. You know John?
Yeah, I do. It's Pro Stock
Yeah,
John. He
Pro
used to
Stock
run,
John from
God, he ran
LS1 Tech,
Bullet
baby.
guy.
he pretty much
Tech, yeah.
started the whole internet forums that have monetary value thing.
Speaking of, I need my old username back. I'm locked out. If you can still fix that for me, John.
He figured out I was Diesel Geek, and I was fucked after that.
Bro,
I kicked you off in like 1994.
I'm so OG. I'm so OG LS1 Tech. My username was legitimately Black Trans Am. Not.
And you were able to get that one.
96 or
yeah. That's like the guy who got Scott Clark at YouTube or at yahoo.com.
I own that. No,
yeah,
kidding.
No, somebody else does. You guys know there's somebody out there paying for AdWords about my name, right? So you guys want a funny thing? You want to see how desperate some people are? Go Google Scott Clark tuner. Scott Clark is a wife beater. And it's just fucking stuff that comes
it
up.
doesn't come up like Googling whitehouse.com?
It might be the same thing. I don't know. But in fact, I would like everybody to go click on the first 3 links that come up when you Google Scott Clark tuner, so that fucking clown that's paying
has to pay for the clicks.
He has to pay for the click. Oh, he paid for a couple hundred clicks here in the last couple of weeks.
Well, it's good to be. What do they say?
It's good to be important.
All media is good media, or something to that effect.
It is. All pub is good pub, I guess. I don't know, but it's just so funny that there's people out there so just full of hate.
Living in his head rent free.
Yeah, god damn, guy, are you? Just keep it up. Whatever. Anyway, it's hilarious. It's absolutely not having the effect that you hoped. It's pretty funny. I mean, I got people asking me about it. I had some customer asking me about it. Man, we Googled you and this is fucking hilarious. Like, I know. Check it out. People have tried really hard and failed.
I mean, if you believe everything that you read about yourself on the internet, Scott, you'd have to look at the mirror for like a 666 stamped across your forehead.
Oh God! I mean, when you guys were getting those emails, I'm the devil and dragon gonna slay me. And what the fuck, dude?
Okay, well, let's not go there right now. And RealTuners Radio says support. Talking.
When the
about
lawyer says to stop talking about it, when the lawyer says to stop, we stop.
However,
so let me state this: the topic of the money that NHRA has. Think about what it's actually coming from, because it's primarily NHRA memberships, because there are umpteen thousands of racers that pay a couple $100 a year to keep a membership up to be able to race at certain events, because you got to have an NHRA license in a lot of places in order to run certain ways. If you don't have your NHRA license, you ain't going down the track 1050 or slower is all you're allowed to right now without a license. 1050 is pretty easy to get to. 10-0 now?
Yeah,
it's still fairly easy to get to. I mean, $600 China Turbo will get you there, get you into the 9s. So, I mean,
Scott, it's not just that, but the ongoing. I've been adding this up lately, and I'm somewhere around $1,400 a year right now between the membership, the license. Every other year, you got belts. I just got tagged because, speaking of living close to Glendora, they checked the date on my Hans the last time I was there, and it's like, crap, my Hans is out of date.
And can you resert the Hans, or do you have to?
Yes, you can. You can resert.
It can be reserted. Yep.
It's $100. So.
Yeah, but what about the guys that have to resert a transmission case? You have to resert the harmonic balancer. You have to resert the flywheel or the flex plate. You have to resert the clutch.
Please. Yeah.
You have to resert. It's a pain in the dick.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. How much money it costs if you're going to keep it current.
Well, that's all SFI fees, but I mean, it's fee. It's something you're paying, but it's just going.
It adds up. It does.
Oh yeah.
I will say, if they go bankrupt, somebody needs to come up with a new set of fucking rules, because those seatbelt rules are a bunch of shit. Helmet rule, shit. That shit doesn't go bad that fast. My shit sits in a climate controlled, garage. It's not like it's getting sunbaked.
The problem with all that is that you've got to deal with the lowest common denominator.
Yours does. The guy out here locally that races, where his car's sitting on a trailer outside right now on 2 flat slicks, is going to air him up tomorrow and race Friday.
The flip side of it is I've never really had a problem with safety rules, because every safety rule there is in place because somebody died or got hurt really bad.
Yeah, it's written in blood. The rules are written in blood, no doubt.
That I can't bag on safety rules too much, but some of the research stuff is a little bit time consuming and expensive.
Hey, how about a subject change? So
what was this about a Hemi Mazda?
No, hang on. Well, so that's Randy Westmoreland is tentatively bringing his car to get tuned at the RealTuners class in Little Rock, Arkansas, November 7th and 8th. If you guys know what Randy runs, Randy was one of the OG fast guys.
Leash Electronics, Randy.
Yeah, Leash Electronics,
so
Randy.
Like an RX-7? Is it RX-7?
No, it's what is it? Blake Hughes built the car.
Can you guys fill in the blanks for those of us who don't know all the famous people?
Everybody who listens to this except for Bill knows who Leash Electronics is. They make
I know what Leash Electronics is. I just don't know the car.
Yeah, it's a Mazda 3 hatchback.
Yes.
Mazda 6 or Mazda 3 hatchback.
With a 426 or a Gen 3?
No, with a
billet Hemi.
All billet AJPE type Hemi.
Okay. So it's fucking cool.
Yeah, it should be a high 3-second car when all is working.
Okay, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
But Randy has
Mazda 3.
Bad luck.
Bring that guy some Loctite. Some of our listeners have followed. What I love about Randy is he will put all of his trials and tribulations online because he doesn't have like an ego about that. So he'll tell you, I fucked up, the balancer came off or something. That happens to all those guys, but he's different from, say, the whiny guy in X275. He will only tell you things like, which of my 7 jet skis should I take to the lake today? Randy ain't like that. He's down to earth. He's like, fuck, this thing came loose, or this I got sprung an oil leak. This is a pain in the ass. It's pretty hilarious. Yes, they make the boost leash. So these guys know. But anyway, Randy's a cool guy. He's got some guys from the shop who are coming as a group. I've been dying to meet them because I've moved within 4 hours of where he lives now, within 3 hours, I guess. So I just was super happy to hear from him. Just nice guy. I've talked to him a few times. He's a Max ECU guy. So if you come to the class, you get to see a Max ECU in action, which frankly is super badass. I was really happy with the one I used. M-Tron and Max ECU are kind of the two that I really like, that I don't see too many people using yet, but I think will be.
Both Australian, right?
Well, I mean, no, yeah.
M-Tron is. Max ECU is European.
Oh,
Swedish.
Yeah, your Max ECU is European.
Yeah, Max ECU is Swedish.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, pick an ECU and say it's Australian or New Zealand, you're right 90% of the time.
Right.
Says the guy wearing the Haltech shirt. Yep.
Hey, I mean, Haltech, Motec, Link, Adaptronic, who's now under Haltech, Autronic. Is Autronic Australian?
All the ones that nobody uses.
Micro, yeah. I mean,
just kidding.
The list goes on. I mean, you got what ECU Master and Max ECU that are
fucking
European,
James Short's rocking out on his Haltech. I'll shut up about that. Dude, car is effing flying.
Hey, Mike Jovanis has been doing well with Haltech for a long time.
Yes,
and
he has.
That's very legit street stuff.
Yep. And you know what I like about Mike, actually, and James, is they'll both lay out what they like and don't like. You know what I mean? They're both like straight shooters.
I tune them all. I mean, obviously I prefer what I do, but just like anything, every system has its pros and cons. I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, I'm pretty open about. I mean, there's some reservations about Haltech I don't like, but it is what it is.
It was where I was going to go until I decided to go with the M-Tron. I mean, that was the logical step for me.
Well, it's good that we have choices.
And stuff. It's just, I just had some qualms with the logging side of things for me. It just didn't fit what I was looking for.
It wasn't that long ago that we had a choice between a Commander 950 and the Gen 1 Fast. So I think we all ought to be
Fel-Pro
making our lucky stars.
You could have had an Excel DFI, okay?
This is a family-oriented show. This is a family-oriented show. You need to watch your language.
Can we do a tuning show where we take an old Haltech F7, a Commander 950, and maybe like a Motec M4 DOS base and make everyone learn how to tune on that shit?
Maybe, how about early Excel DFI?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I liked the DOS-based stuff. If you went from that to the M100 series, that was their Motec's prime. That was when you saw Motec on tens of thousands of cars and not just like niche stuff now.
Or go more OG and Just do like a stock Honda ECU.
And you guys watching Facebook? We got some guys knocking out some.
Yeah, they're getting
here.
a little upset. They want us.
Yeah, we got it. We got to go to that. I think there's two things worth calling out from Facebook. One is Bill Armstrong mentioned that we just completed Rocky Mountain Race Week 2.0.
Yes,
a very successful event. Now 2 in 1 year from Matt and June. And with Kyle and 1320 as the lead sponsor and a bunch of other sponsors that kicked in. It's really cool to see that quality of an event can be put together in that amount of time. And all these parts are in place now. So this is why, going to Bartolomo's blog piece, the Wally crew has got to pay attention because other people are doing really good quality events of different types. I mean, I will not forget Rocky Mountain Race Week 2020 Part 1, that we hit these tracks, when we were in Kansas and we're in Kearney, Nebraska, and the place is packed for Rocky Mountain Race Week. And that you drive down and there were fans lining the entire return road, yelling and screaming at my piece of crap.
In fucking Kearney, Nebraska, dude.
Yeah.
And that's literally the dead center of nowhere. And I'm not kidding you. It's literally the halfway point between where Interstate 80 starts on the East Coast and ends on the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, we went through several places that claim to be the center of the country, but never mind that.
Yes.
All I'm saying is there is a lot of grassroots support and interest in racing out there, and my hat's off to Matt and June and Adam and that whole team that did that. And then the other thing is, I noticed Tom McGilton logged in tonight.
Is Tom listening?
Yeah,
he's a longtime customer of ours. We love
and there's a guy who has stuck with it with easily one of the most badass crazy rides in the history of the planet. Who else takes a brand new ZL1 and turns it into a clone of Larry Larson's Nova, other than having Larson do it, which he did? But out there hammering on that thing, making the drives, doing the deal, oil smoke occasionally. That car scares me these days, but nevertheless, brought home the win in Rocky Mountain 2.0 for the overall. And God, it's cool to have people like that logging into this. So let's answer questions.
Listener 396 SSLSX said, Great Bend said it was the highest turnout they had in a long time for Rocky Mountain Race Week. My first question to pose to you, Bill, or anyone else, how the hell are Matt and June, Matt Frost and his wife, June, awesome people, how are they able to pull this off? And yet we can't get a drag week, or is it an East Coast? I guess I don't know what coast drag week was on this year. Actually, I wasn't paying attention. But why can the little guys pull off such a killer event?
Because they don't have corporate attorneys and risk management people.
Yeah, nothing to lose.
It's not so much nothing to lose, because let's face it, if something really went pear-shaped, it could be a problem for anybody involved. You look at what's gone on at Bandimere after Rocky Mountain Race Week 2020.1 and all the shit that's come down on them for trying to keep their event open. But the bottom line is, smaller people have the ability to make decisions and not have to answer to corporate overseers who are saying, we can't get insurance for it. We don't like the risk. We don't want to become seen as a super spreader event for COVID. And so unfortunately, that's why you saw, because Discovery now owns, all of that. And those people at those levels are going to make those kind of decisions. Short answer.
Does it have anything to do with Drag Week being based out of California and Rocky Mountain Race Week being based out of a different state?
Well, the bottom line is Discovery is not headquartered in California, so no.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like most of the media companies, I think they're corporate. They're a Delaware corporation, but run out of New York. So
I can't keep up with everything. I know it is Hot Rod Magazine, and for my whole life that was California. So.
Yeah, no, and that's perfectly understandable. And I know from talking to Keith Turk and a bunch of the other people that they were busting their asses to try and make sure that event stayed and worked and kept going and was going to happen. And between some of these governors. I mean, I'm going to say this out loud on this podcast. I signed the recall petition for Gavin Newsom in this state because we have governors acting like dictators all around the country.
Dipshit was doing on the media today.
Oh yeah, blaming the fires on climate change, and they're going to ban internal combustion vehicles beginning in 2035, as if that's going to prevent the rest of the state from burning down between now and then, because they won't tell the enviro Nazis to go to hell and do proper forestry management. Another conversation for another podcast. Anyway, but the bottom line is you have a lot of decision making that affects large corporate interests, and they simply can't make decisions to have events like that. So we have, NFL football with empty stadiums, with fake crowds in the background. I mean, God help us.
We're losing Facebook questions because I can only scroll back so far while we're live.
Go, Mike.
I'm just trying to stay caught up. There was a question about nitrous in Terminator X, and if you ask it again or post it again, I'll get to it. For the most part, though, if you're trying to ask if you should go wet or dry, I will almost always take dry in a EFI application. And if you are asking how to set that up in the Holly, it's pretty much a pounds per hour fuel add. Any flowed nitrous system will come with pounds per hour. If you don't know how to get that, you can run your system for 10 seconds, do the math on pounds per hour, how much nitrous you're using, and use your favorite tuner's nitrous to fuel ratio to calculate your pounds per hour to get you started. Running through a couple more.
Mike, if I can add something to that, we set that up on my car. As usual, I was working with Scott Clark, and I can't think of anything that went smoother, better.
Some fucking loser.
Yeah. Anyway, that went smoother, better than shit. For me, I'm the most paranoid nitrous user ever. Because
it's good though. It's really good. I liked your approach.
Blowing shit up.
Yeah, so no, we tested it every way from Sunday in PWM mode, dry. Did the math. Figured it all out. Figured out what the pulse width should be. It's going to work just fine, and it did.
And it did. And I just, I just want a second for everybody out there who's thinking about it. Well, I'll just do a wet and I'll have this and I'll have 2 different, fuel systems and 5 different things. No, don't do that. Your EFI system, if it's reasonably current and recent, meaning no Commander 950s, get a competent tuner and you can make this run and your shit will live and it will work and you will be fast.
Yep. 2, 1 I'm going to hit. So they want us to talk about the Holly V6 updates, which I'll let Scott Clark touch on. But before that, I get, what do you think about intake gaskets that reduce heat transfer to keep thermal blankets to keep intake temps down? I'm going to tell you, okay, on a race car that runs for less than about 10 seconds. If it runs for more than 10 seconds, just throw that shit in the trash. The gaskets,
absolutely.
The thermal temp gaskets, personally.
Even the turbo blankets, they help a little bit if you're melting stuff around it. But if you're destroying shit, they help. Other than that, they make almost no difference in intake temps at that point. So,
but neither turbo blankets or insulators are going to hurt anything. They're just saying, when Mike says throw it in the trash, it's not because it's going to cause any damage or hurt anything. It just means that it's a lot of money to spend for no benefit.
Yes. And Scott Clark, the V6 updates, that's been asked at least 3 times. How do you feel about that?
Okay, so first off, you can just do like what I'm doing. You can go to hollyefi.com. It's in their tech library, the document, but it's also in the, if you download the V6 software, which honestly, I haven't installed anybody on this yet, but I saw, there's some cool stuff there. They finally caught up with Megasquirt on the rev limiter stuff finally after years of telling people, it's Dwell, you can't possibly have a good soft rev limiter. So it looks like they finally got figured out on that. If you look at the table of contents, they tell you, so it looks like they've really just added some comprehensive controls to keep you from having to screw around too much with advanced tables to do this or tying up. What's nice is you don't have to tie up your advanced tables, but shift outputs. So they've got a shift control software segment now that'll let you control each shift's RPM. So you can do what the pro mods like to do in short shift and your low gear to second, and then second to third can be a different shift. And it looks like they had even more than that there. So for I think up to 4 gears. I have to look close at that. But anyway, then they also have converter lockup control outputs, dedicated dump valve controls, spool assist valves, which I thought was kind of a cool add-on. Again, to me, all this stuff is stuff you can do in advanced tables. Maybe you run out of advanced tables trying to do all of this. So this is nice. It doesn't tie up advanced table space. They're definitely using some of that 32-bit architecture here, letting you layer on a lot of cool toys. So if you look at this document here, I'll post it in the Facebook comment right now. There's the document in the Facebook comments. It does not have test modes. Everybody relax. Ryan Whitty told me at last year's Arkansas Mile when I met him that they were not going to be able to do test modes on this hardware.
Yay.
Did you say gay or yay?
Yay.
With a G. Yeah, it is. It's lame. I don't know. Some stuff has happened with their people that make this for them. I don't know. I'm not sure what all's going on there in the background, but I'd love to have test modes, but if we can't have it, fine. So let's see here. What else do they got? Converter lockup, all kinds of cool stuff for converter lockup, pedaling control, some neat shit there. Again, stuff for the dump valves, updates to the advanced ICFs. They added a rev limiter offset function, which is kind of cool. Some changes to the drive-by-wire module stuff, but it looks like that's all just adding more parts. That's really all I can say about it intelligently. I'm not going to pretend I've used this on a car yet. So whoever of my customers wants to do V6 here updates pretty soon, we'll find somebody I'm sure that wants to come along and do a V6 update. We'll give it a go.
I've been
like Perduto, go ahead and tell him I don't want another V110.
Dude, and I really lost a customer today, and I don't know if he's listening, but he listens regularly and he can hear me out. He was really mad that I wouldn't put him on the V6 yet. And it's simple. When the new V5 came out, I still have cars on V4 because their car just, or their ECM for whatever reason gets pissy on V5. I'm not going to be the guy to do this first. I'll let you guys that already updated it, and I've seen some of you that already done it. I'll let y'all guys work out the bugs and hurt your cars or had dumb problems. And when you guys figure it all out and they release the next build, then we'll upgrade to 1.6 or V6. You guys screwed up.
Yep. Greg Parson is a buddy of mine on here. He's out in the Southeast and he's a wiring guru. He's an install guru. And yeah, he's like me. He's like simplified a few things, I guess. And why the hell don't they have test modes in all caps? I'm with you on that, man. As an installer, and I'm a turnkey config it kind of guy. When after the car's supposedly all together, I have to try and sort out all the bugs to get it actually usable. Man, test modes are sure handy. Just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, I love after having to use the test modes.
Yeah.
I will say there are a few that have test modes. AEM's test mode is terrible.
Some of them can be terrible.
The Infinities make you upload a non-runnable test-only firmware and then go back. It's a nightmare.
That's what Holly told me that would have to happen if you were going to do that. And it's like, why can the Mega Squirt guys get it and the Fuel Tech guys can get it? They've had test modes for years.
Link, Mtron, Mega Squirt. How
Pro
Tech didn't
EFI.
get it till the Nexus.
Dude, Pro EFI's even got it'll basically software signal generate, so you can have it. You can set forced parameters like forced RPM. Let's just go ahead and run this thing as if it's at 8,000 RPM right now and fire all the coils. Let's go ahead and set my coolant temp sensor at 31 degrees and see what happens. Pro EFI's got some of the most comprehensive test modes I've ever seen, actually. But love that. I like that system. I don't like some of their dealers, but I like that system.
Hot Rodders versus EPA in California, hosted by Bill Fowler. Tune in next week for a 12-hour discussion.
I think I answered that appropriately.
Hi, David Geisler. Good to see you here, buddy.
Speaking of people that have Holly V5 issues where his computer randomly turns a table on that adds fuel at half track.
That thing is so fucked up. That bug that Geisler had, I've seen it on others too. But you guys actually tried to figure it out.
I could be standing on the starting line. I can say his car will make a clean pass, not a wisp of smoke, no nothing. And the next pass, halfway down track, it's blowing black smoke like a diesel truck, and you're just like, "Hey, that table turned back on."
You could not disable the manifold pressure Excel enrichments.
Nope.
On his, you could not zero that table out. It kept coming back.
I think the table goes to zero. It's like you look at the graph itself. There's nothing there.
Yep.
But the lines on top, the actual X and Y axis, auto populate themselves.
And we've tried different laptops. We've tried reflashing firmware, tried upgrading, downgrading, reinstall the software, and literally nothing would make it go away. It almost made me think that was like a dedicated hardware, some kind of problem with the hardware. You got me, man. I don't know what that was. One of the weirdest things I'd ever seen.
So I actually have a question on, I think it's YouTube. That hardware-wise, this is probably Scott Clark. You weigh in on this, but quick question: MS3X running a 2JZ GTE, currently using a 12-tooth crank trigger. Would I have enough benefits to go to 36-2?
Honestly, no. So the only reason a lot of guys go to a different wheel is because they might have trouble with the crank sensor signal. And honestly, on the 2JZ, if you leave that 12 tooth on there and you install the commonly known circuit, if there's a couple of resistors, it's basically an RC filter on that 12 tooth crank trigger setup. Man, it works so good. It'll crank at low RPM. I literally just worked on one of these today. A guy, if you went to the Florida class, Khalil, his car, Mike, you remember Khalil's 2JZ IS 300?
The thing was clean, too.
Sweet car. God damn. I just love original, and I've got nothing wrong with the LS Fox body swaps, but man, dude, that 2JZ and that fun little IS 300 car, that thing moved out. You know, it was like a 600 or 700 wheel deal, and it was just great. Anyway, he installed that circuit because at low RPM and cranking with the starter spinning, he'd get erratic RPM tach noise, crank signal noise, and it would cause kickbacks and backfires and weird shit sometimes. So I think you're better to, if you're going to make any changes to that 12-1 with the VR, don't put the Hall sensors in it. Just use the VR and use the RC filter that's going around the guys that use MS3X. Hit me up if you don't know what that is on Facebook Messenger, and I will forward you a picture of that circuit diagram that you add a couple resistors. Yeah, see, everybody's talking about the IS300, how nice that car was. Khalil, you built a cool car. And he was in there like checking out everybody else's Turbo LS cars or the Pro Mod, you know, and he's like, oh, I feel like my car isn't special or whatever. I'm like, dude, that car's fucking clean. Khalil is listening tonight too. Love your car, buddy. So anyway, yeah, he's listening.
Yeah, I'd just say that the stock trigger, if you're still using the stock sensors on that 2J, that is the worst part of a 2J. I don't care what you see. It's not. Those stock sensors suck.
I'm going to argue with you on this one, and here's why. Here's why. The factory computer never has any tach signal loss with those sensors. Okay, guys say the same thing about the Ford, and listen, Brian, this is kind of my specialty. The problem is when you build an ECU, when you build a piece of hardware like a Haltech or Megasquirt or whatever, when you're designing that, you got some decisions to make. Square wave inputs are not one size fits all. VR inputs are not one size fits all. They have a function or a property called impedance, and it's how much load they put on the sensor. Okay, and their interfaces, Ford's sensors are different than Toyota's sensors are different than, well, fortunately, a lot of the European cars all use Bosch. The GM stuff is all in the Bosch family now. You have impedance mismatch, which is the issue. The one cool thing that I learned about being part of the Megasquirt crowd was how to do impedance matching on sensor inputs and how to test it and make sure that you're not getting jitter or any weird shit to the input to the processor, and consequently watching the outputs of the processor. That was stuff we did for Engine Masters Challenge to make absolutely sure that every spark event happened at exactly the right crank position. You'd be surprised how they bounce around. One ECU might be kick-ass on stock 2JZ sensors, and the next one, which is a great system all over, has problems with it, and it makes people think the sensors suck. Usually it's not the sensors. Usually it's just the fact that the sensors are not optimized for the input on the ECU, if that makes sense. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of work that we did on the OEM side to do any of that is insane. So I definitely understand. I from my side, I've had the sensors fail even on factory ECUs a decent amount.
Yeah.
Part of that's I deal with a lot more swap stuff, so they die a lot more. And they're just there's a lot of other options when you start to make power on those, and you're getting away from the stock stuff. Not the sensors are complete garbage, but when you're making power and you're on a different ECU, there's usually other stuff that's easier to do that's a little bit more consistent. So if you're making big power, I just like to see those things on a better sensor typically for the reasons you just mentioned, more or less. There's a lot of ways to do it.
It's easier to make a Hall sensor work than a VR. Impedance
right,
loading,
and that's
VR
exactly where I'm at
turns.
on it.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get anyone to get a Hall sensor to work than to try to explain how to make a VR to work nice and to scope everything. And to do all of that, it's easier to say, hey, go buy this Powerhouse Racing Hall sensor kit. I know it works. I know we're not going to have a problem with it.
That's important stuff, because if you can't get that stuff right, you have no idea what's happening.
I'm sorry. If you guys could see the back chat right now, I wish you guys.
You're gonna see him just a second.
Oh, Scott's left the building. Okay. Yeah, the dog is out of the chair.
There we go.
There was a couple questions. Yes, you can go back to V5. You go to V6. You can always download the older firmware. That's fine. We've probably put. I think Geisler's gone back and forth between V4 and V5 at least a dozen times at this point. Let's see. My Holly tables have been screwed up from day one. The top row of tables carry over from the previous table. Interesting.
Sounds like Geisler's not the only one having that problem. The funny thing is Geisler manages to be the world's quickest 2-valve Ford modular with that problem.
Hey, Scott, have you ever produced a webinar on basic use of oscilloscopes and basic ones? Chase Cole has a question about, suggesting basic scopes and that sort of stuff, and download the Picoscope software, he says, and watch Scanner Danner's videos. I don't know what that is, but anyway, I mean, have you ever done one of you? Yeah, I assume so. But have you put together, or you guys put together a webinar on use of scopes? Because I think that would be a good idea.
But we could do that. First off, get yourself a Pico 2204A. Gosh, I don't know if this is the right place to talk. I had an awesome time 3 weeks ago on the dyno. I spent an entire week in making your own circuits, heaven or hell, depending on how you look at it. I enjoy that challenge. I think I talked a little bit about it last week. We had a controller out of a 1960s hovercraft that runs these 4 of these 5,000 horsepower gas turbine engines, and we were trying to make that work for this land racing car. And it's this big giant control box, literally bigger than like 2 bread boxes side by side. And I had to build an RC filter for it. I had to try to make it interface with this modern Continental fuel valve. But anyway, I used the crap out of my Picoscope 2204A, and I finally feel like I could give some lessons on the use of an oscilloscope. That being said, if you watch Scanner Danner, my fear was I'm not nearly as good as those guys are. I mean, these guys can hook. They can detect a low compression cylinder by looking at your battery plus and minus and watching the inductive current from the starter. So they can say, okay, here's a cam reference and here's 8 cylinders. Oh, number 3's down on compression when I'm cranking the starter. Check it out. By watching they do some neat stuff. There's actually a guy that goes around and teaches classes. I'm kind of, okay, if I did one, and I will, I promise, I've got that, and I've got the other one I'm working on right now is the how to do shock velocity, since we had Chris Bell on here, and he said that's super important. Shock velocity on Holly. And so I don't see Devin doing that one, so I guess I'm going to have to do that. Shock velocity on Holly, and how about getting started with your oscilloscope? I mean, that's all I've ever really had to do with some basic stuff, watching square waves, watching sine waves. I can show you some tricks like how to look at the crank sensor voltage and tell if you have noise in your power or your grounds in the car, and it can tell you which way to go to chase noise. So yeah, I can put something together. I'll probably have to be with a car for that one, but we will.
Or, it's not wrong to partner with people that are elsewhere in the industry, like Scanner Danner, to come up with something jointly that's, targeted at a particular market. That just makes sense to me. I just remember doing our little 36 minus 1 wheel, with an electric drill and your scope in my garage some years ago when we were trying to figure out our problem with LS1 sensors.
Yeah, so, we were early on to using LS sensors on the Ford wheels, and it worked as pretty good. Then we had to learn that the orientation mattered and then figure out what gap, and it was fun to experiment with that. I think we were actually using a bench grinder. Yeah, that sucker spinning.
Yeah, we bolted the wheel to the bench, took off the abrasive, and
Brian Rock was trying to center that thing up because it started looking like it started wobbling. He's like, that fucker's going to come flying off of there. Let me try to fix this for you guys.
Yeah, but that worked. I mean, that was back in the 06, 07 period of time. But hey, we did what we had to.
Yeah.
What is Scott Evans trying to tell us?
I think he's rebooting.
Oh, no, he was holding something up in his hand. I'm going to mute myself. My dogs are being stupid.
I was just waiting for you guys to finish. So I was just going to say, this is the Pico series, right? I've got one here. This is the size of it, okay? It's about the size of my hand, right? You can ease it. It's thin. You can fit it in a backpack. You can fit it just about it. I mean, you can put it in your pocket if you got a big back pocket. Right? It's got a couple BNC connectors. You buy the leads for them. Pretty standard for any oscilloscope. Thing works great. I've used it a bunch. USB cable connects to your computer. Super simple to use.
Yeah, you can power it with a laptop. You don't need wall
super
wart.
Easy.
You don't need a wall wart power supply. It powered by your laptop. You can send it down the road with a car, and you can have it log. It'll log 32 pages at whatever rate you want to sample. This badass. What I was using it for, I was monitoring. I validated that the two shafts in this gas turbine. There's a gas producer and a power turbine. And it's kind of like an air torque converter in between them. One's exhaust blows on the fan input of the other to spin the power input anyway and turn a transmission. I was using that to monitor the speeds and the differential speeds between the two. So converter slip, if you will. And then also I was monitoring the signal between the old school controller and the fuel control valve. It's a 0 to 5 volt signal. And it was real twitchy and it was causing fuel delivery consistency issues. So I put a filter on that to make it smooth out and slow down real nice and accelerate at a certain ramp rate. And I had Peter Florence, the famous, if you know him in Megasquirt world, he's one of the best circuit guys on there. If you know Peter Florence and you're like an electric guitarist, that Peter Florence, the guy that does the mods for like Eric Clapton's guitars and who refurbished the console from Abbey Road Studios, one of their studios, so that Lenny Kravitz could install it, and he installed it in his house. That Peter Florence, he was helping me out with. He's an audio guy by trade, but loves to do Megasquirt and custom circuitry stuff. And coincidentally, I'm working with another team right now, the Speeduino guys, on a one-off controller for gas turbines for motorsports. The boat guys need them pretty bad. There's a couple hundred people out there running this, but.
Yeah, and these little Pico scanners are like $150. I mean, it's not a bad price. Yeah. So well worth the investment. Yep, you can get different leads. There's a bunch of different stuff. So if you need to do stuff with a little higher voltage, they make some leads that have little resistors in them to knock the voltage down. And you can get them in 1 by, 10 by, 100 by to be able to meter things properly and not burn stuff up. So plenty of options. Oscilloscope leads are pretty standard in the industry. There's
BNC connectors.
Tons of them out there. Yep, standard BNC. Anybody doesn't know what a BNC is? It's this roundish connector here that you're seeing on this 75 ohm termination. And actually, they have the wrong one on this one, but it's functional. It's not quite the right one to use.
Khalil's asking, he's got a buddy with a Fuel Tech 450 and his car is running with no cam sensor wired, only the crank sensor. Yep. How is that possible?
You can run the spark in wasted spark mode and spark the cylinders, the plugs at every top dead center event. The thing is that runs your plugs at twice their normal pace, unless you have the older 2JZ that had a wasted spark ignition. Piece of cake on that one.
Asking, I don't know if you saw Dahlquist about, it was Fowler asking about if we should talk about I do like the idea of the Holley Sniper, because Scott Clark had a super good experience apparently with the
Oh my God, you need to Sniper. Shut the hell up. What are you talking about? You don't talk about this. Apparently Scott Clark had a wonderful experience with systems that he typically does not have good experiences with. I thought that was good. No, some guy showed up at the class with a really rowdy nitrous motor. Bewley was there, and he enjoyed this too, because we enjoyed the shit out of tuning this thing, because it had a tune-up from the expert, the Facebook guy, Nitrous, everybody's Nitrous God. He had a tune-up from that guy, and it was all jacked up. We made power by taking timing out. We made power by running air fuels. They said when we made power by the plugs not looking right like they're supposed to by the nitrous guy. And it was just super, super funny. And a good time to tune this car. But it had a super sniper. What is it? The 45. What's this Dominator flange thing?
4500.
4500.
Is it a 4500? Okay. So anyway, the big flange. And it worked good. I couldn't believe it. Do I know how much? I wish I would have had a port system to compare, because the way it ran for having a giant cam was impressive, and the distribution it did not look bad. The fuel distribution did not look bad based on looking at the plugs. So I was pretty impressed. It ran good and made big steam, and me and Bewley had a blast tuning on it because it was, it was a weird engine, responded weirdly. It wanted tons and tons of timing on motor and hardly any timing on nitrous. Like a 400 shot, and you were taking out like 25 degrees, just something ridiculous that you wouldn't expect, and it kept picking up power. So
that makes me happy because, like I said, I have a boat I got to do the end of this year with twin blown big blocks in it, and we have to put the fuel in pre-blower.
I don't know if I'd be doing that way. You'll have shitty throttle response having to do that without injectors below the blower.
See,
but carry on.
Dreams. Wow, it says video froze. Mike's stuck on the screen. Ugly view. Thanks, Craven.
Go ahead and hit refresh, Joseph.
Yeah.
Just hit the F5 key.
Big tuna.
I got the doggy up on my screen right now.
I'm looking at that.
Oh, Lindsay.
She's passed out.
She's like, Dad, you do this stupid shit every Wednesday.
Oh, no. There she goes. Gotta stretch. Do I still have her on the screen?
Yes.
That's froze for me too.
I'm getting stream metrics, resolution too high, blah blah blah. No, that's okay. That was just a normal thing. Stream health.
Let's see.
Froze.
Questions they can obviously.
Yeah, froze on both of them.
They're saying it's froze, Jace. Are you showing any dropped frames?
Gosh.
0 dropped frames, so it's coming out of the house okay. Let's see if it's getting to
the way it looks on my end is it's like it timed out or something because the bar is at the far end to the right side. It's like it got to the end and stopped.
Shows Mike just sitting there, Mike's pretty face.
Yes.
No one wants to.
It says ready to go live. Are you sure your stream is still streaming? Let's try.
They said they can hear us. Everyone says audio is fine.
Apparently not.
Audio is fine, but not video.
Who makes the best G meter? Holly or someone else? Are the expensive ones worth the extra money? Oh, Mr. Shimmer, that's a very loaded question. So it depends on what you want to do and what kind of racing you're doing. I do have a lot of love. Black WS6. It's just black Trans Am, John. I do have a lot of love for the VPS. However, there's a gentleman out here and he always listens. I can't think he runs cheap G meters. I've used his with good success. It depends on if you're trying to get if you need 2-axis, 3-axis, what kind of racing you're doing and what you're wanting the sensor to do.
Also depends highly on how you have the ability to mount it.
Yeah.
Because some sensors are super sensitive to every little thing, and some sensors are filtered already internally, and that makes a huge difference. So you got to know a lot about what you're doing with it before you make that decision. I can add that the $15 Adafruit one works great, but it doesn't have any filtering, so you get every little jitter, every little jolt. So you need to have it mounted properly. It needs to be shock mounted. It needs to have proper insulation to it. It takes a lot to make it nice. It can be done, but for $15, you're doing a whole lot of extra work. Where you spend a couple $100 on a nice G meter, you just stick it to a surface and it works.
Hey, I'm not on the screen no more. Everyone can be happy. They can see Scott Evans' face now.
Yep, now I'm froze on the screen.
Have problems with my speed sensor. It gets voltage, and I test the sensor to where it is landed on the ECU, and it reads. It's not reading on the race pack IQ3 dash, and no reading on the MS3 Pro. I choose not to comment on MS3 Pro issues. I'll leave that one to one of the guys.
So the IQ3 dash is going to be based on how you program it to happen. So you've got to have the right ID for it to show up there, and not everything can be put onto the IQ3 dash. So I don't know if it's one of those things that doesn't go.
Hang on. Why don't you let the tech support guy who used to work for them answer that question? Go out and do your firmware updates first. First thing you do is you got to go download the most recent program for your for the data view program for your laptop. Go get the most recent one off the website. It's buried on the Holly website. They're making it harder and harder to find. Then use that to do the firmware read all on all devices, and then do the firmware update to your IQ3. I guarantee there's a firmware update that'll solve that problem. Once that's done, follow the instructions in the documentation for the MS3 Pro. It's real easy, just a couple of steps. In fact, there's a simplified setup in Tuner Studio for that. Hit me up on the side if you can't figure that out. I can help you with that.
The real question is, why are you still using the old Indiglo dash? We need to get you up into something modern with colors and nice screens, not that garbage.
Let's see. Small block Ford Dominator, 36-1 crank trigger, MSD cam sync. How important is it to have digital falling on both? Digital falling on crank, but can't get it on the cam sync.
So my understanding is that the sensors in general, the ECUs, the way they're built and designed to read that signal, they tend to read it better on the falling side. It's not a necessity, but they tend to read it better is what my understanding is. And I don't know all the details behind it. I'm pretty sure Scott Clark could probably elaborate on that once he's back from trying to sort out the video issues that are happening. But
cam sensor,
it's not the end of the world if you can't. The big challenge is that if you can't get it there, you need to make sure that it doesn't line up directly with the tooth settings on your crank sensor, because sometimes, because they share shields and grounds and other stuff, sometimes they can cause interference with one another. Holly will tell you specifically, if you're looking at a log, that if the two things line up directly on top of one another, you're going to have problems. And that happens with a lot of ECUs. So you always want to have enough of an offset that the falling edge or the rising edges, whichever one you're using, don't directly line up right immediately 100% on top of one another. They need to be offset ever so slightly.
In the cam sensor, it just doesn't matter as long as it sees some sort of input from the cam sensor. With enough time to go, the next time I see the missing tooth in the crank sensor is top dead center compression. Like, it literally doesn't matter if it's falling or rising. It just has to see it, say, like 80 degrees, 85 degrees before it sees the missing tooth.
Yeah, on that point,
most of them want it to be about 180 before.
No. Most all of them are 50 to 90 is where they're.
No, not the crank. Not the crank. Not the crank sensor. The cam sensor. Sensor. They mostly want it about 180. The crank sensor, you want it, generally you're typically somewhere in that 65 range.
So I may have missed something, but it's usually 50 to 90. Especially the way the OEMs do it. I mean, you got a little more flexibility with standalones, but usually the cam signal is supposed to happen if you're using one tooth reluctor per firing event, like an MSD. Then the cam critical, it has to happen after the last cylinder in the firing order, but before the first. For a lot of systems, Holly's not that way. They want to do two pulses before. It's kind of interesting. But then if you have a multi-tooth, like a 36-1 or a 60-2 crank reluctor, then usually, like Scott's saying, you can get away with it 180 before, or any time in the cycle before. That's most of them. Most systems I've seen anyway. Not picky about it.
Well, I think let me clarify too, because Scott was saying before top dead center. I was saying before the missing tooth. Missing tooth is not at top dead center, because you're going to have the missing tooth is going to still be like 65 degrees before top dead center. The missing tooth is, and then if your cam is 85 degrees before that, you're typically, that's like 140 before top dead center for the cam. But it just needs to see the cam before it sees the missing tooth, so it knows that that's top dead center compression.
Correct. That's my understanding. That's a good way of putting it. Okay, I killed the poll on Facebook, Bill. Sorry.
I only suggested that because I didn't know if it was causing some of the freezing issues.
It's been there forever, I guess.
I know. That's what I mean. That's anything that seems to just linger, I figure it could be a problem.
Yep. No, it was, you know what it was? It was us on this end. We're being dumb. We're learning. It's okay. The audio kept on good, so
I'm curious about the relationship between the cam sensor and the crank sensor, given the relative speeds of the two. This is now math. It's become a Brian question. I'm just going over that in my head.
Let Brian explain.
Yeah.
Well, you guys might. No promises. You guys don't.
He's busy nursing. Breastfeeding right now or something.
You guys are a fully, modern family if you're nursing.
Now look at that look on his face. This thing just crapped itself.
Gotta take the hormones.
This thing just crapped itself.
every day this week since about Friday, between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., she decides to intermittently test her lungs. So no promises. Yeah. So hold on. Sorry. So the speed between the two, I guess it really depends on your ECU. You're back to that. And, if we want to talk, sorry.
There's that test.
We can come back to this later. It's no problem. Yeah. Babies come first.
She'll calm down in a minute, but yeah, we'll come back to this in a little bit.
So while Brian takes care of the important things in life, I only raised this question because we were talking about Mark was saying about having the trigger for the cam sensor happen before the trigger, let's say whether it's a 36-1 or an LS or whatever, the 70 degrees or so before top dead center. And those things are changing because of the 2-to-1 ratio that cams and cranks typically function at. So I was just trying to sit here in my head and think that through, because that relationship is going to change over time in a way, isn't it?
No.
Or does it?
Yeah. Yes.
No.
So the relationship doesn't change. It's the speed at which it happens that changes.
Chain stretch.
Right. Yeah. Well, never mind chain stretch, but just
we're going to assume perfect chain.
No, it's a 2-to-1. It's a 2-to-1 ratio, Bill. So so basically, every other time the missing tooth comes up is top dead center for compression on the crankshaft.
So every other time, then the cam came up at some number of degrees before that, based on.
And then the ECO goes, hey, the next time I see the missing tooth on the crankshaft is the compression stroke.
Because
that's all the cam. That's all the cam sensor does. That's it. That's all it does.
Yep, your missing tooth happens twice because we're a 4-stroke. It happens twice in the combustion process, right?
Right.
So it's going to see it once the first time around saying, hey, I'm sucking in air and getting ready. And then it's going to see it the next time around when it says, hey, all the valves are closed, let's fire the spark. And then it's going to go around again. That, it's going to alternate between the two. You're going to see that missing tooth twice every time you have a combustion cycle. So, and your cam cycle only needs to happen the once to say this is the combustion cycle.
Now, you'll have some ECUs that have the capability on certain crank trigger patterns that will omit the cam signal after it's had a certain amount of consecutive full sync cycles. This is real handy on stuff that, at higher RPM, might have a little bit rusty or off cam signal at high RPM, but the crank sensor seems to be doing really good. So, once the ECU is running the engine and knows, which one of those missing tooth cycles is compression stroke, the cam sensor is just there for reference at that point. So some systems you can actually omit the cam signal altogether and it'll run off of the cam or crank only. Most of the OE stuff, it works that way.
Once it has synced up.
Yes.
Well, in LS, even if it sees too many crank or cam errors, it will drop into a wasted spark batch fire mode as well. I'm not sure. Is that most of the ECUs or all of them still?
A lot of them, but not all of them.
Definitely did.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where kind of where I was going to go on the 12 tooth versus 36-2. That's where the benefit of having a missing tooth crank and understanding how that works is, because now your cam sensor is just a reference. If you don't have a missing tooth, your cam sensor is more important.
It's a position, not just a cycle indicator.
And how your ECU does the calculation too, because even just the Haltech, the Platinum Sport versus the Elite, the Elite's actually calculating crank angle at real-time speed because it's much faster, whereas the Platinum Sports did the tooth offset. They were just counting teeth and then doing a sync on that, so they weren't nearly as accurate. And that's where, again, on the crank and cam, where on the JZ and stuff like that, having a missing tooth, or an RB is a good example of that, where they're prone to belt stretch, whereas having a missing tooth on the crank and then just a cam for reference makes a much bigger difference at high horsepower.
Right on.
Back to understanding what ECU you're using and what your pros and cons of your triggers are. I'm always a fan of a missing tooth minimum on the crank, and how that missing tooth lines up with your sync to, single missing tooth versus multiple.
See, I'm gone for 2 weeks. I come back, and here's Brian shoving math down my throat again.
So it's actually kind of turned into a joke, but it's legitimately every time I've talked to Sorensen's, the drift team I work for, and it's always been tuning and math, because they're trying to tune the cars, figure out how much boost these blowers should be making on a certain compression engine or a certain displacement engine. She'll scream as soon as I start talking math, this happens, and she just falls right asleep. So
it's a message, man. Shit is boring.
Sounds like there's a future lawyer in the house.
Yeah, or a driver.
My wife, so my father-in-law, my wife's an engineer too, but my father-in-law is an engineer. And whenever my wife couldn't sleep, she would go and wake her dad up, and he would just talk about some science subject till she would fall asleep. So I have a feeling that's going to be my job.
Oh.
What are we missing here?
I have a minor digression. Speaking of science. So everybody knows that science has attempted to duplicate all manner of things in the lab. And I want to share this. This is a product called Glyph. It is ostensibly the first molecular whiskey.
Molecular whiskey? What the?
Yeah, so some typical San Francisco startup guys decided that they could synthesize what amounts to, quote unquote, an aged bourbon by doing it with neutral grain spirits, and then adding, magic and money. And they got several $1 million of startup money to do this. And I can share, having put this through my little Glencairn glass tonight, that it doesn't smell like whiskey. It doesn't taste like whiskey. And no, it isn't. So I can share you people a lot of time and effort and money, should you be tempted by the idea. Nevertheless, it's going to be fun to have the bottle on my bar so I can explain to people that no, you cannot at this point make whiskey in a test tube, despite the fact that it says that it has smoke, sherry, vanilla, and spice. That's what the little dots are telling us that it supposedly has. And at my Total Wine, it had tasting notes on it. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. But I had to try it for myself, and wrong. Whereas the Wild Turkey Rare Breed Rye is astoundingly good. And the Clyde
But does the Glyph stuff still get you drunk? And is it reasonably priced to get you drunk?
You tell me what reasonable is. I paid $24 for it.
That's reasonable.
Okay,
That's
so
reasonable.
it's similar to any other little thing of whiskey. That's kind of similar.
Yeah. So if you mix it with Coke or something like that, you may not ever know. But other than that,
molecular whiskey. Right.
Molecular whiskey.
I don't know how much I like the idea of science messing with my liquor.
Yeah, precisely.
I mean, your liquor is science, isn't it?
Really? In a way.
But
it started out with years of just basic experimentation, and now
the problem here isn't that science messed with it. It's that science tried to shortcut it.
I saw an advertisement yesterday for a new Michelob Golden, and they called it
oh, I saw this. Like it's yes, it's like a,
what do they call that stuff that's all natural crap?
Organic
beer. And I started thinking to myself, what's an inorganic beer?
Yeah.
Like what does an organic beer
Budweiser
have? But what would
it depends what you're using in your extracts and stuff like that. If you're not doing all grain, and if you're adding sugars to help.
I saw a bottle the other day that said gluten-free water. Just think about that.
I love that stuff.
Nova loved that.
So tonight's winner.
They were advertising dehydrated water for storage today.
Powdered water.
for $6.
Hydroxymonoxide.
Yes.
Hydroxymonoxide. Oh, and tonight's runner-up.
What is that?
That's a Clyde Mays. This is a single barrel select special reserve, blah, blah, blah. The point is it's Alabama style whiskey. Don't ask me what the difference is because I don't know yet, but it was recommended to me today. And then this is pretty good stuff, quite frankly. So this is why we do these shows, because we can do research at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Basim Kashab. He's just tipped. No, he just tipped us $5. One of our listeners actually used the tip jar function that we set up.
Woo-hoo!
We've made like $65 in 2 years. I want to thank you.
Boy.
We'll split that up 7 ways. Every one of us will have a packet of ketchup from Arby's. But thank you. We appreciate it.
We can afford the gas to go get our genetically modified whiskey.
Right. It's like $120 a month to keep podcast alive. Isn't it? But Roll Tide, Kenny Howard.
Roll Tide. There we go.
Just don't be stuck by a bunch of bees.
You can keep that Roll Tide crap.
Oh my.
So what else?
So I'm curious about this because we've got no racing in California and no racing, the NHRA, like World Finals and Pomona were, been canceled and all that stuff. But there is racing going on in other parts of the world. Who's got stuff that's going on that's cool?
We got top end racing Sunday if the weather lets us have it. If the weather lets us have it. But Florida doesn't seem to have weather that lets us have it. So we'll probably be sitting on our couches watching waterfall from the sky. But if not, we'll be racing from the big end of the track.
Oh, that's an exciting proposition.
I will tell you this. I'm enjoying it because it's becoming a tuner's paradise. It's scary. And Daniel Lembo is listening right now. He's the car we use for the test, and he's the car that races there. And I'm going to say this with him listening. I don't know how confident I would be putting something I had money in on the big end race, but it's what he wants to do. It's his car. So
let's see how that one pans out.
Well, he has the FI charger on the car now, and he got to feel what 35 pounds of dome felt like last night on the street. Ooh. And I get this message from the guy that hangs out with him, says, "I think you scared him." So we have horsepower, and I built a custom offset table for dome pressure, TPS based, so he can literally control boost down track with his right foot. And that seems to be working. Play with the ramp a little bit and smooth how it comes on a little too hard. But we're trying some new stuff. We're going to try some crazy things and see if we can take home some money Sunday if the rain lets us.
That include putting like 500 pounds of ballast in the trunk or something?
I don't know, dude. So these guys are even more secretive than like tractor pullers, which was crazy. I don't know exactly how much weight he keeps in the trunk. He might answer, he might not. He's posted now. It says she was spicy last night. But these guys, they all play their games where they hide their weight. There's a million theories from guys that are running absolutely no front shock absorbers to I don't want to put everyone's game on blast, but these guys do some crazy stuff. They're literally racing on one of the worst surf. This is worse than any road you could ever drive on. I was talking to the guys from Orlando Speed World, and you got to understand, they never cleaned the big end of the track. So 25 years, 30 years of transmission fluid downs, oil downs, coolant downs, power steering leaks, everything else have never been cleaned up on the surface. And the surface is so loose, we're literally putting holes in the pavement doing the burnout. So this is worse than any road.
They can get insurance for that.
Yeah. This road is very, very bad. And it's, as a tuner, you want to, I can make this car go down the surface, but at some point you have to have a lot of confidence in the guy in the seat and just hand the controls over to him and let him feel it as it goes down that surface. And Lembo's quick with it. Yeah. He says 400 pounds of weight in the driver's seat. But it's a very different form of racing. I'm really learning to enjoy it because, like I said, it's definitely a tuner's paradise, and it's a fun world, man. I don't know that I would do it in my car, but I'm having a lot of fun helping other people do it.
I did it once in Phoenix. They did one of these top ends, so it was after the end, and that's an NHRA national level track. And going down there the first time was you drove all down there, and then you hit the end of the quarter mile, and the rubber is there from the burnout box to the quarter mile, and then it stops, and then you've got just the same deal, whatever this sort of very rough asphalty looking thing, because they also use that as part of the road racetrack, that place. So that's a braking zone for the end of the track as they make the hard left onto the road racetrack. So all kind of weird shit is going on there. And all I know
So it kind of proves that point.
Well, I've seen guys that'll go down. Wow, new comments are rolling. He gone, no sound. Y'all drunk, all sound gone. Time to drink, no sound. Hey, Bill, first time drinking. I lost sound. Feel like I'm watching a bunch of Husky guys talk about barbecue. I love barbecue. Pro Stock John, don't you get me started.
Sorry. Bill, check out the YouTube says, tell Bill to pick up his story from where he said the big end is a braking zone. Because someone's bitching about we had no audio. We have audio back. Sorry.
I'm sorry about that. I
tripped over a cable on this end.
Yeah, I spent 12 hours on that. So you'll be able to hear that on the rebroadcast.
No, he actually won't. We don't have that recording. So
we don't have that recorded. I will give the short version then. The bottom line is at Phoenix, now known as what was Firebird for a million years, and now it's Indian Casino du Jour Raceway. Anyway, at the end of it, that the straightaway there is also the straightaway for several of the road course configurations, because they do have road course there. All kind of the Bondurant School is there, and so at the end of that, it changes from an NHRA national event level track to, just like Mike was describing, just pebbly asphalt with everybody's transmission fluid spills and everything over the years. And it was a skating rink. And especially for a car that's set up to run somewhat prepped car track with drag radials. And so it was a nightmare for me. Nevertheless, I made 7 laps on that 8th mile nonsense, and it was entertaining. And about the only thing to my credit is we drove there and then we drove home and made it all in one piece. So I'm happy with that, but God almighty.
And then I made a smart ass comment that radials belong on prep surfaces, and if you're running on a true no prep, that you better have a bias on the car.
And you are 100% correct.
Here it comes.
I know. I'm waiting for the internet to light up. How long is the delay? Because we'll see.
30 seconds or so. It's a pretty good delay when you think about it. I'll give you about 15 seconds. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go take a whiz.
By the way, Carl Hardesty, you posted that he's on our broadcast for the first time, is also my partner in our shop. And he went with me to Rocky Mountain Race Week 1.0 this year and survived all the crap we dealt with. So my hat's off to one of my best friends and, someone who put up with me at a drag week style event, which is no picnic. So anyway, good to have people listening. I know he's on vacation with his wife, which explains his presence here.
I'm actually surprised everyone's agreeing. There's no fighting. I was waiting for all the fighting back and forth. Scott McDonald, the radio works after rubber is on the street. I will take that bet any day of the week. You put us on bare asphalt that no one's been down before, and you will never make a radio go down fast enough to bias by tire. You can't convince me of it. No one's going to convince me of it. I've done it hundreds of times. It's not going to happen. I'm not talking one of these roads where 80 cars have been down in the last 3 weeks and we got rubber out there. I'm talking straight virgin asphalt, never had a burnout done on it before.
Yeah, so, well, I would never do it again. That and not put the 400 pounds in the trunk.
No. One of the things we're actually doing at Orlando, well, I don't know who else is listening. So what's going to happen is after this event, because the rubber is going to start to get down. This will be the second event on that surface. We're actually going to move the starting line. They want to keep it true street style. So we will never be racing on a rubbered down asphalty area. We will continue to be on bare asphalt every time we show up to that track.
To your point earlier, Mike, I'm not convinced that a shutdown area is even equivalent to just bare asphalt somewhere on a road somewhere. It's just because of the nature of what happens in the shutdown area.
Yeah, it is worse.
Yeah,
it is definitely worse.
And yes, everything that got up in the car under acceleration is now thrown out of it the moment you come across the line and get on the brakes or pull the chute.
And Taylor, that is the exact reason. It's recovery time and it's wheel speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, track, no prep, scraped. Yes, exactly. Yes, absolutely. I will run a Pro Bracket radial down a scraped track or a concrete surface with some rubber on it any day of the week, but not on true bare asphalt. I know the guys that are racing are just now they're all like, nice, sweet, that's awesome, Virgin Road. I should have said something. Wait till you see the surprise for the street cars. It's gonna be we're gonna surprise the street guys too when we show up to that race. They have a little something coming. These guys that claim to be street, like daily driven street cars.
So I like the fact that John Ryan's on here talking about that. Maybe we need to work something out, somewhere and do an actual test of this.
That's actually happening this Sunday. There's actually bets on the line of the radio versus the bias, but I think they said so far like $500 has been thrown on the bias, and only one guy is betting on the radio right now.
Well, that's always the deal with Vegas, if nobody's taking the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
So it looks like Scott's still out solving technical issues. No, he's back.
Nope, I'm back. I'm back.
I see him.
Sorry, we're fixed. God, sorry, everybody. It's kind of me and producer guys' fuck-ups tonight are the only reasons why things screwed up. We screwed up the video, froze it twice, then lost the audio.
It's because I came back.
It's no. Okay, we'll blame Dahlquist because I don't know.
If I skip next week, it'll probably be fine.
We blame you for too much stuff already.
Scott McDonald, tuning. I don't understand what you mean by tuning. This is street racing. There's no second pass. You get one shot at this. You pull up, you make a burnout, you go down. This isn't, hey, we're gonna make 18 passes and see who does better. This is not, hey, let's go out and dial a car in. This is, we're pulling up one shot and making a run.
Is that the rules there, Mike, that it's all straight off the trailer, no time runs, no practice, no nothing?
Yes, there is no practice run off the trailer directly into competition. Go.
That's pretty much any no prep that I've ever been to. Like, they don't want anybody to have any advantage, and they frown upon any locals, especially that have, been at the spot out there testing weeks prior, et cetera.
There's a great example of it a few weeks back. Somebody had a track no prep event. It was supposed to be completely clean, and they got there and there were some marks in the track because somebody had tested. Everybody got in a big tizzy over it.
Lyle Barnett was testing. I don't know if it was Lyle. He said it wasn't him. He seems like a pretty honest guy.
All I know is somebody tested, and that's, that is unfair to the guys who follow the rules and say, nope, nobody's going to test.
If Lyle was the one testing, I wonder how bad he feels that Daniel Lembo outran him round one.
Oh, man. I wanted to be like, Profiler Nation, hashtag. Perduto was remote tuning a complete low budget. Just a Daniel's car is low budget and fun. Yeah. They're having fun and they make that fucker fast, and they got it down on this crappy surface. And there's a video. Damn it, you should probably share that, Perduto. It's pretty hilarious. But and I love Shannon Davis. I'm not giving you a hard time. I'm like, they push this beer money car. Does that thing run like 560s or something? I'm not sure what that thing does. I could be way wrong on that. But anyway,
I think it's a little quicker than that.
Okay, but it's this trashy car. It's just a junk car with the goddamn VPS and everything Profiler has to offer. Build atomizers on board. I mean, everything about that car is there's a lot of cool shit on that car. And it was funny. Perduto, it was so great because Mike,
the entire car.
Mike, you just have this way of handling yourself over messages. Like I hadn't heard from Mike in a private message for probably a week or two. All of a sudden, bing, I get this message. Oh, it's Perduto. Let me click on it. Oh, it's just a video. Well, let me see what he sent. It was pretty funny. And he did a little smiley face after it, and that's all. And I'm like,
Lemma made the video. I'm looking for it right now.
See if you can share this. It's funny. And I God bless Lyle Barnett. We're just teasing
I want to say, buddy. I like those guys.
I do too.
Had a chance to hang out with those guys. Eric Yost is one of, we're fortunate enough to have Blake involved in this, and Blake is an enormously talented guy, and the other guy I think is enormously talented in space is Eric Yost.
Yeah, Yost is amazing. I love him. I the first time I met Lyle Barnett was in a golf cart shortly after his accident. He gave us a ride back to the pits from Rob Goss's car, and he's friends with Rob Goss's crew chief. And I was helping him out, and I need to go get my laptop. I screwed up, forgot my laptop, whatever. He hauled ass, took me back there, and I got to talk to him for 10 minutes about and mostly it was his incident and safety, and how he was like, okay, see that guy there? That guy's thinking ahead. He's got such and such a suit, but that guy, they got way too little safety equipment. They got the minimums, and he was really cool about explaining that stuff. I like that. Then we got a little rivalry, little podcast rivalry, I guess, because I asked him, I'm like, dude, they had announced their show and they were going to do it like the same night, same time as ours. I'm like, come on. It's literally like the same 75 people that are going to listen to them are going to listen to us. I'm like, do it like any other night of the week. And he got a little ruffled feathers, and I'm sorry. But
it all worked out.
It did. It worked out fine. And I still have maximum respect for those guys. Lyle is a fucking awesome driver. Did you see that guy? He hopped in someone else's car and went and kicked ass. He drives a tooth jerker. So he's clearly got skills.
Yeah, he's got skills. I've
and obviously
seen him live
Pete
and in
Harrell
person.
at HED. He doesn't like any tuners like us, but he's good at what he's doing. The guy can build a mean engine, so he's tuned some badass small tire stuff.
It's in the Real Tuners chat now, Scott. But it's long. It's over a minute long.
Oh, got it. Is it uploading to the Real Tuners chat?
It should already be there.
Oh, in Facebook. Got it. Okay. Let me go find.
But these friendly competitions should be what this should be about. I mean, this is to pull something from completely out of my ass, which some people appreciate and some people won't. The two people on the Supreme Court that were the best of friends were Scalia and RBG. And they had dinner at each other's houses all the time. They were genuine friends all the time, despite the fact that they had very different viewpoints on interpreting the Constitution and all that. And frankly, if those people can have that kind of, professional life and still get along with each other, then I think the rest of us need to be able to do that too. So there.
They must have owned race cars, because that's what happens with race car guys.
Yeah, you help out. I mean, I have done that. I have sat on the side of the road with transmission fluid on my face, helping my competitor fix his car. That's what you do.
Dude, I will give you the parts off my car to make next round, just to line up next to you and try and beat you while you're using. That's how racing should be. You know what I mean? Like that's what we should be doing.
Absolutely. And we got to, work at it to keep it that way, frankly.
Let's see. Want to see us all race each other, Khalil? We got a bunch of slow shit over here, man. I don't know.
Yeah. First of all, I'm
my garbage will be ready soon.
Yeah. I think Evans's car is going to pretty much beat anything I'm likely to own in the near future. So that's not going to be competitive. Although I will run you head, take off the little whirly things and I'll run you straight up.
I get to pick the time and day.
Oh God.
Do I have to drive it? Can I have somebody else drive it for me?
I should say I get to pick the time and day and location. Excuse me.
Wrong video, Mike. Sorry.
Hill's going to be trying to slide down the track. This is going to be, I don't know what to do with myself here.
Mark's going to take his truck and he's going to race this in minus 40 degree weather because his will start in minus 40 degree weather and nobody else's will.
Actually, I probably use my car because it's better on glare ice, which is what I would pick.
Perfect. We have so much experience with that down our way, kind of like Perduto.
So Perduto, you have the. I think you sent me the wrong video. You sent me like a video recording of the show.
It's at the end of that video.
Really?
Yeah. Hang on.
You don't just have the.
Lembo, send me the video of you versus Lyle.
Oh wait, you sent the video of the girl putting on suntan lotion?
No, you're looking in the wrong screen, Bill. Close down the old man porno before we start the show. I said this once. I said it 100 times. So anyway, what else do we got? Other questions while we're waiting on Lembo to send us a video?
Hang on. I think I'm forwarding it to you again. Hang on. Forward.
Well, basically, didn't they just put a little too much in it and it spun?
They did, and then he said, someone said he was saying that, oh, my tuner wasn't here to tune my traction control or whatever. I'm like, well, dude, if you had dual VSS sensor, front and rear wheel speed sensor traction control, you wouldn't need to adjust it. I'm just throwing that out there.
If that's the video I'm thinking of, didn't it smoke the tires about 250 feet out or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was literally sitting on my couch drinking a margarita. Joseph Craven, who also helps work on the car, he's in Ocala, and what's his name? Lembo's up 8 hours away or wherever racing the car. We're having to coach him through how to upload files and download files and push buttons on his laptop. So I don't want to hear no shit. Oh, my tuner wasn't here. I wasn't there either.
Get your tuner on the phone, Mr. High Tech Profiler Nation. Get a fucking $8 a month hotspot. Sorry, had to tease. But yeah, it was pretty funny because our guy was on remote a couple 100 miles away and working on this car. He's like, watch this. They put him on a trailer. It was pretty hilarious.
We could do something worse though than have the RealTuners Nationals. Somebody suggested something along those lines.
I would like to put on an event. I kind of would like to try my hand at a single event, not get in the way of some of these other guys that do it better.
I will say it is the most thankless job you'll ever do in your life. I have never.
Oh yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I get involved here at Orlando. I can announce at the track. I thankfully Ozzy lets me be like family. I can do what I want.
Yeah.
You haven't lived till you're in the tower, and there's literally at the same time this guy's complaining the track's too loose. He can't go down the track. The next guy up the stairs, dude, that track's so tight, the slick tires just don't work. And you're sitting there, and you're like, I don't know what to do right now. Like literally, there's nothing you can do. Everyone, it's all your fault.
But I hung out with Bubba at Cordova a couple times and seeing the way he handles these guys. Some of the track prep guys handle the complainers pretty hilariously, I think. But I know
some of those guys might be complaining to purposely try to throw somebody off too. Like some of those guys say, oh man, the track is super loose when it really wasn't. They just want to act like it was because they want to make their competition do something different.
I just sent the one you want, Scott.
Okay.
That's possible. I've worked at tech a few times way back when with Keith and stuff at the Pump Gas Drags and then Drag Week with Keith and Lonnie, and some people just want to bitch about stuff, and I feel a little bit of your pain, Mike, because some people are just never fucking happy.
Okay, here's our video right here. So hang on, if you're with me, let's watch a little bit of this. I'll scroll ahead a little. You may be getting the audio here, but if you look there in the left lane or in the right-hand lane, Daniel Lembo. Nothing special. Left lane, there's the big show. That's the beer money. Hey, that car's been on Netflix. iTunes cars on Netflix. Sorry, I got a message.
Calm down.
No, it was just, I'll explain later. It was a really funny deal. Some guy was going off of me. So anyway, hold on.
I literally watched that car being built from scratch because I through an odd combination of circumstances, we were a sponsor at the 10K horsepower challenge that year when that car was built. So I did get to see all that stuff sort of happen from scratch.
I mean, they do a great job promoting this thing. Lyle Barnett, Chad Reynolds, they have a beer and two dudes podcast that they have is often very entertaining. In fact, it's funny. I find myself listening to their show while I was out fishing. I've been out doing some trout fishing in the evenings, and most of the summer here, I kind of stopped. The season stopped for now, but look at this. Perduto's guy on the right. Somebody had their shit together. Sorry.
I sent you another one too that's better. If you play the
Should
one,
I look at the other one? Right lane, yeah.
They're saying right now you can only see right lane on the feed.
Oh, you could only see right lane on the feed. So Jason, you need to work on the what's going out here. There's a cropped screen, but hold on, I'll pull up the other video here. Just a sec. We can try this one again. My producer we're getting up to speed. So this is
that's interesting. I wasn't looking at the Facebook either. Yeah, they're right.
Sorry. So check your cropping on the OBS, Jay.
I'm having minor. I can't see YouTube tonight because of a computer issue. So sorry.
Just a sec. We'll rerun this one. Hang on just a second here.
Even those little screenshot flips that are coming through, Jesus, they were lighting up the tires for 2/3 of the track. I got to give them that.
A drone video right there that shows you.
Oh, that drone video is something. Yeah. So yeah, they had it all in a little early. I guess.
Well, I think they were relying on the traction control to do the job, and at some point you got to let your driver do the job. Daniel's in there working his butt off, making the car get on the track, and they're relying on.
I mean, Lyle is a good shoe. So did Lyle say that he never took his foot out of it? Is that the deal?
I don't know that answer.
It sure don't look like he did.
No.
If you could hear it if it plays clean, I mean, it's banging off the traction the whole way.
We're almost there. We're fixing the screen now. Hang on just a second. All right, watch it now. There you go. The drone footage is awesome. Oh my God. Look at
great. It does look like a John Force burnout.
Profiler Nation. Hashtag. Sorry, Mike.
What does Profiler have to do with that car?
These guys are like, 1 minute they're like, it's just junk car, it's just cheap junk and blah, blah, blah. Then the next they're like, Build Atomizer, Profiler Nation, glad to have you guys on board. I'm like, well, that's pro mod shit.
Yeah, it's got a high dollar precision on the front of it. There's no, I don't doubt it was built cheap for the series. It's not that car. It's not
a cheap build car. And also, if you a good job promoting, get somebody there to tune your shit, man. Should have won that one. But anyway, we love them. Have fun. We got to rib them a little bit because we're all racers.
Absolutely.
So look at that. Damn it. You can feel the angst in that left lane.
He hit the car screaming. Like,
oh, yeah. It's like, I don't want to pedal because it'll slow down just a little, maybe. Oh, that sucks to them.
Is that a 275 on that car? Because it looks thin.
No, it's on a 2810 5 slick.
Oh, okay. That the tire's standing up because down track it looks super narrow, but that's because the tire's standing up.
Knowing Limbo, they're probably 4.5 years old. I think they went flat twice that day. He'll comment. I'm not making this up. Like, this is legit. Like, that's what makes it so much fun. If you watch the burnout in the first video, it doesn't. The belt came off in the burnout. It like when I tell you it's the most fun car. It's put together on a budget by a guy doing all the work himself. They call him Lembo Mods. He's a welder by trade, and he fabs and builds and did all the work himself, and it's paying off big time for him, man. I got to give it to him.
Where is this, by the way?
I think this was Rockingham. He can post. I'm pretty sure it's Rockingham.
I have yet to hear any audio on any of this, so that might not mean
there was no audio on that one. We're back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I don't think I can't pipe my audio out to the crowd, to the real world. I don't think.
So for those who wanted to watch this again somewhere, where is this posted, Mike, that people could just, pull it down somewhere?
I believe it's on Spooled Media. It's up there on the top left of the screen on the
Okay.
video.
Are we able to load that on to RealTuners, or is this, copyright?
I mean, where? Just put a link to it in the comments if you want.
That's fine. Yeah.
The valve stem was glued back in. See, I'm not. This is North Carolina Digger Die Rockingham. Yep, that was the Digger Die race.
Now, the weekend after that, though, the Beer Money guys went on and run the JJ's arm drop 2 weeks later and won that, didn't they? So good job, guys. Good job on that.
Yeah, that was impressive given all the things you have to overcome to win on the TV show.
It's mostly just knowing how to play. I mean, you got to know how to play their head games, right? So, I mean, they got Lyle and those guys are probably real sharp to that kind of shit.
Well, if you watch and pay attention, you can see, how they're deciding, when to leave early and when not to. But you have to overcome wherever it is they got the test and you didn't. That's the worst thing about that in my book is, you get out there. I got to attend to one of the filmings, and it was evident that they had been testing on that road for days. And yet the locals who got to come out to their road, had to roll literally off the trailer and make a hit. So it's like, really? That makes it fair. And then you're dealing with can you leave on the actual arm drop or do you have to jump, and when can you jump and when can't you, because they've got
Chase is a race.
Yeah, exactly. I can't watch that anymore because of that. And those guys that are on that rolling tour now, they're nice people. They are, that they've got caught up in the TV show and they're nice folks, and they're going to have a chance to make a living doing something they would otherwise not get to do. But pretending that it's a even up situation, not so much.
Machine races. What are you guys doing up there in North Dakota or wherever you're at, Hildebrand? What are you racing?
Trenching machines.
Snow machine race. No idea.
I'm in Florida, bro.
It's not a snow machine, Jake. It's a snowmobile.
That's what I call them too, snowmobiles. I don't know what the fuck. The snow machines, they started calling them that on the Alaska TV shows.
What's snow? I don't know what that means.
No, they're atomic death toboggans. That's what they are officially called.
Man. Dahlquist has got some friends with some crazy ass turbo sleds, man. You don't mess around with those.
Hey, I mean, you don't need snow for those. I mean, the grass drags up here in New Hampshire are huge, and those things are fast.
Yep.
I will have you guys
breastfeeding.
It got down to
the baddest sled I was actually involved with was a naturally aspirated 800cc 3-cylinder, and we were running about 1.5 miles slow off the world record with it. We were going about 142 and 1,000 feet at the time. And of course, nowadays the stuff is way faster than that, but that's all in the mail.
Yeah, it is.
That's moving out.
We're running out of questions on the Facebooks.
Oh, it's almost 10 o'clock. It's about that time.
Yeah, it's about that time.
Almost 8 o'clock for Bill, almost 10 for us, me and Mark, almost 11 for Brian and Mike. And that poor baby Nola over there.
Evans is just getting done with breakfast.
Right. Let's see.
I'm curious to know, and anybody on any of these feeds know where the term atomic death toboggans comes from?
Let's see. Buckaroo Banzai, The Adventures of?
No.
Okay.
I can Google faster than anyone, but I'm not gonna.
Guy who used to write for Car and Driver. Variously been a humorist, was on the Harvard Lampoon a very long time ago. So let's see if anybody can come up with it.
I guess I'm going to have to fire up Google.
Yeah. No, not Murder, She Wrote. Jesus, Jake. Murder, She Wrote.
Just tell us.
Mercedes-Benz SLK Atomic Death Toboggan.
Nope. Still wrong.
I mean, that's what you Google it. That's the first thing that comes up.
Really?
Yeah.
That's just disappointing.
Table of contents, key issues. No, your buddy doesn't show up on there. Sorry. So that was a joke only Bill's going to get.
Okay. That's too bad.
Look at that. So what else? Anybody else questions?
Jesse, we will not be making Sweet 16. We will be making The RX-7 will hopefully be in paint by next weekend. If so, we're mad dashing No Sleep Till Georgia to try and make LDR in Georgia. We'll be at No Mercy either way, but I will not be able to make Sweet 16. I can't do all 10 days of duck. I can't afford to take 10 days straight off work and live to tell about it. The price is wrong, Bill.
Bill's like, what movie is that? I've never heard that line before either. So it's Happy Gilmore. It's way after his time. It's a movie that was in color. Pretty sweet.
Yeah, I started with the original Talkies. So what do you
Okay, so he knows what we're talking about then. It's not all just piano music in the background and having to write stuff on the screen.
Oh my, you guys.
All right, well, I think we'll wind it up here, man. Thanks everybody else for joining in tonight. Thanks all the hosts. Thank you everybody for all you listeners tonight, putting up with our audio glitches. We're working out some new bugs. A bunch of new equipment. Once again, it was that time of year for the upgrades, and we're almost got it all figured out. So, we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Next Wednesday is the night before I'll leave for the Arkansas Mile, and we're going to go try and we're gunning for a top speed in the meet with Rick Lind with his Talladega land speed car that's been in the wind tunnel. Pretty badass. Anybody else? Mike? Mark?
The author of the column in Car and Driver about atomic death toboggans was P.J. O'Rourke. I'm sure some of you have heard of P.J. O'Rourke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Thank you.
The only Car and Driver author I can remember is Chubba Cheddar, or however you say his name.
Chubby.
Chubba Cheddar. That's actually how you pronounce his name. I know it sounds weird, but that's
Interesting
true.
cat.
Yep.
All right, guys. Signing off. We'll see you next week. I say that, and then I got to push a bunch of buttons here, and I have to mute. Nope, I muted myself.
That was entertaining.
I know, right? We're still on live, so hold on.